साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। 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 विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। भजो रे विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। भजो रे विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। भजो रे विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। विघ्नेश्वरं भजो रे मानस विघ्नहरं भजो रे। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। 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 Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam on this beautiful Friday evening or Saturday morning, depending on where you are. Excuse me. Today, this evening, I want to address some questions, many of the questions that have come to me in the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially with regard to the KYG schedule, the new yoga classes, and so on. So I just wanted to clarify all those doubts which many of you have posted to me or written to me either by emails or messages. And so I thought it'll be prudent for us to address those and make things very clear and see how all of this fits into this overall sadhana that we are engaging ourselves in, and that will help us move forward through the year. So without much ado, let's straight away get to the FAQs. As you see, in this year, we have started a new schedule. And so I wanted to make it very clear what this new KYG schedule is for 2021. We are going to be offering these live programs, KYG programs, 5 days a week, Mondays through Fridays. In the last year when we had started, we did Saturday as well, but we want to take a break on Saturday so as to just make sure that this is, I want to emphasize on, or we want to focus on rather the consistency and the ability to do this throughout the year, not take too much upon ourselves. And therefore, we decided we will take a break on Saturday and Sunday from the offerings. But we have a lot to do to catch up and get the content ready and all these slides and all whatever we have, technicalities to get ready for the next week. So that's number one. Number two is, and also, of course, Saturday, Sundays, there are other satsangs and programs that come for me, so I can commit to those programs. Mondays through Fridays is basically very simple for you to remember. It's mornings and evenings, and I'm talking from the US time perspective. Mornings, 7 o'clock, which is US Eastern time, which is 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. On the same day, India is about 12 hours, 11 and a half, 12 hours ahead of us, so please calculate accordingly. So Monday morning, every day, from Monday through Friday, every morning at 7 o'clock, we'll have 5 types of yoga, and I'll come to that in the next question. That is the yoga abhyasa. Abhyasa is practice, so yoga abhyasa. And then 8 p.m. in the evening, about 13 hours later, in the evening, Monday through Friday, we'll have these programs. Every day there is the same program. The 8 o'clock time slot is the same, but Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, every alternate day, will be the satsang, where we are currently studying the Devi Khadgamala, and we will start from Monday onwards. We'll catch up from where we left and go into detail and study the Devi Khadgamala Stotra at this point. And once we finish, we'll start another. Everything that we can incorporate into a sadhana, into a practice, right? So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 days a week. At the same time, I want to devote to Kaivalya Marga classes. These 2 classes the Kaivalya Marga classes were being conducted at a separate time throughout the day. We tried different timings, mornings, afternoons, and it just seemed too confusing and too hodgepodge. And I wasn't able to keep up with the schedule of satsangs in the evenings and afternoons, Kaivalya Marga class, and so on. And therefore, we decided, since everybody has made this time, most of you all have made this time in the evenings, we'll also use this for the Kaivalya Marga classes. Kaivalya Marga classes are not going to be very different from satsang. We won't have bhajans, but it will be in the same lines. Most of you have already been part of that. So hopefully, we'll be able to continue to offer the Kaivalya Marga classes, where I'm currently studying. We are all studying together the 5 elements. We've covered the earth. We have almost covered water. We have maybe a class left on that. And then we'll go to each of these elements in detail and take it from there. There is so much to cover. So 2 days a week is, at this point, is what we can afford to give. And let's see how that goes. If we get more time, or if something opens up, so we'll take it from there. But for now, this will be the schedule from Mondays through Fridays, mornings and evenings. There's nothing during the day, during the week, that we'll be offering. Unless something special comes up, we'll of course let you know, like a puja or something, like a pradosham puja. We are still setting up the altar. But if that comes up, then it'll be at a separate time, because pujas can't be done for our convenience, right? Certain pujas have to be done at a certain time, because those are the times that the cosmos decides that windows open for our consciousness. And so I like to respect that, and that's so I'm not going to change on that. Whether it suits the other times in the other parts of the world or not, we are tied with that. So we'll announce those as a special thing. But other than that, this is what is going to be our standard programs. So that's the new schedule for KYG. Hopefully you'll all mark it on your calendars, and please do grace these occasions with your presence. It means a lot to Maya and me, and to hear your feedback, your comments, your questions, and your greetings filled with love. It's the greatest encouragement and motivation. So thank you for already participating, and we both look forward to continue offering this in the year 2021. So a lot of questions came with regard to this kinds of yoga that I had introduced now. This is not new for my own personal practice. When I was in Trinidad a few years ago, we did this, and we had, of course, that was not a virtual thing. It was the actual class. And it was real fun when every day of the week we had a different kind of workout from an exercise perspective, of course. And then one thing led to the other, and especially during the last year, I was so involved in this virtual learning how to set up this technically and learning to play the harmonium and practicing songs and so on. I just couldn't find time, other than my regular yoga practice, which has always been my core. I didn't do any of the others like strengthening, muscle toning, etc. So I thought, if I have to kick it back into gear, I might as well do it as part of the program, so we all learn together. So what are these 5 types of yoga, right? So this is what we're going to do. Mondays, we are doing Hatha Yoga. This is standard Hatha Yoga. I call this also the intermediate level. We have almost completed a mandala here. We have done 40 plus classes here. These classes focus on flexibility and toning of the muscles. I say intermediate means the level, the physical level of that, the physical demands is for somebody who has already practiced yoga for 6 months to a year, who is a lot more agile, a little more flexible, not somebody who's just got up from bed and said, all right, you know what, I'm going to do some exercise, let me straight away jump into the intermediate. Now it's possible, depending on your age and your natural ability and natural fitness levels, it's possible somebody can do that. But it's generally not recommended for beginners. However, with the help of props and things like that, you're welcome to try it, and then we will see if you might find it too intense for you. You can go to the other programs. So this is the focus here is flexibility and toning of the muscles of the body. See, when you create flexibility, the muscles expand, more blood flows in, and blood is a vehicle for prana and energy, and so one thing leads to the other, and there is not only just increase of blood flow, but that all of the benefits of increased blood flow comes in. So cramps and all of that slowly go away when you continue to practice the Hatha Yoga, the proper Hatha Yoga, which is at an intermediate level. Tuesdays, there is another yoga. The abhyasa is called Urja Abhyasa. Actually, the traditional word is Urja. Urja means strength. But I use the word Hanuman because whether you believe it or not, and I'm sure most of you will believe, last year, when I came back from Varanasi where we don't have the Hanuman statue here, but when I came with that statue and installed it at home, just everything fell into place very beautifully, and I just can't look over the shoulder on the other side. So I want to keep that in my consciousness and in our consciousness, that Hanuman is the core energy, will be the core energy, has always been the core energy of a yoga practice or yoga sadhana and of the KYG practice. So in order to, for me to keep that at a conscious level, and for all of you, I brought in the concept of Hanuman Yoga. Hanuman is a symbol of strength, flexibility. He was a Raja Yogi. He was a Hatha Yogi. He was all Jnana Yogi. He was all of that, right? He was the embodiment of what a perfect yogi should be. In Hanuman Yoga, we focus on strength and endurance. If the body learns to endure, if the body is strong, the brain understands the experience of endurance, so it doesn't get stressed. It understands, okay, I've been through that at the body level. So it takes that same learning principles and applies it on an everyday life. And therefore, the ability to handle stress, etc., increases so much in somebody who can do this kind of practice. This again is not for beginners. I would encourage, if you have youngsters in your home, introduce them to Hanuman Yoga. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of workout, but I am going to start it slowly, and I will teach you how to cheat in this. So try it out. Try and see, and see if it works for you. Toning of the muscles, building of the muscles kicks our youthfulness, our vitality back into gear. Never say, "Oh, I'm too old for that." In fact, what happens when we are old and we just go for a short walk and come, the same exercise, the same muscles get work, and so many other muscles just go to sleep. They just don't get workout at all. So we need to challenge the body and kick it back into gear. So it helps, number one. Number two is fat burning. People who are thinking of losing weight, burning fat. Muscle toning, strength, and endurance. Hanuman Yoga is a great way because you burn, the body begins to use fat for energy. Of course, you don't do Hanuman Yoga and then and have a pizza or something or ice cream later on. So this supplements your food. Okay, so we'll learn all that as we go along. But Hanuman Yoga is mainly focused on traditional principles of strength, just body strength. We're not going to use extra weights, not at this time. If there is some, at some point we'll need it, we will talk about it, but I don't think so. We don't need that. Just using body weight, your own body weight, how we can do, what are the traditional practices that the wrestlers of India practiced for hundreds of years, how they attributed most of those practices to ancient warriors like Bhima and Hanuman, who derived strength from that. So we're going to borrow the very same ones and modify it a little bit so we can ease ourselves into these practices. It builds your chest, it brings strength. I'm not talking of size and muscles and muscle cuts. Okay, I've never been a fan of that. I like a body light and agile, like I can use it for trekking in the Himalayas. So you're not going to build bulk in any of these, but the muscles will become very strong. Your body will learn to endure. And especially when we go into pilgrimages, I know that I've received so many emails, and thank you for most of you who have taken time to watch these videos. Thank you so much for your kind words. It's easy to sit back and watch and say, "Oh, I'd love to do that," but then the biggest hurdle there is your body. Remember that. Because when you listen to it with soft music and chant, you think it's all nice. But there, when you're puffing and panting, hardly able to breathe, your body is aching, the experience is very different. But you can overcome that if you train yourself, spend time training and preparing the body for such pilgrimages. See, in those days, pilgrimages were not done by taking a train and a plane and going off, right? What was pilgrimage? The essence of pilgrimage is I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going into this new, I don't know what is ahead of me. I'm just going there, searching for God, searching for this place. So people would pack a little bit to eat and a little few clothes and head out from the south. They would head out to Kashi all the way. They would walk all the way, hundreds of miles, with God's name on their lips. So it is a greater sadhana if done properly. So when you're preparing your body for a pilgrimage, let's say in 2022, that seems more likely, right, for us to plan something. So you have about, let's say, 400 days from now, or 500 days, give and take a few hundred days that we might skip for many other reasons. 400-500 days of training is part of that pilgrimage. So you already begun your pilgrimage if you're doing this with an idea of preparing your body for such endurance. And then what happens is the body doesn't come in the way. The mind is free to get into that zone. The beauty of those temples, the vibrations of those temples, it's an amazing experience. So something like that, if that is on your bucket list, then these training really, really helps. Even otherwise, all of these are wonderful exercises for general fitness, health, and vitality. All right. The third one is every Wednesday, we do Hatha Yoga. This I call it the beginner's level Hatha Yoga because the exercises from a physically it's not that demanding. We've already again done 40 plus exercises, 40 plus classes. So if you're listening to these for the very first time, I earnestly urge you to go back to class number 1, a Hatha Yoga beginner's level, and catch up when you can join us on live classes. For those of you already in the intermediate level or you are into fitness and health and all of that, I still urge you to practice this because I still find this from a mindfulness point of view. And it is in these classes I will be bringing in a lot of balance exercises. Balance is very important, especially as we age. Now, you might think I'm only 20 or 30. I'm not going to worry about aging now. It doesn't work like that. So you prepare yourself right from that particular age. The younger you are, the more balanced you are. When the body achieves balance, we challenge the body to balance. The mind learns the idea of balance. And that balance and harmony become key for optimum performance in your everyday life. It's amazing how you'll be able to control the emotions, and channelize your creative pursuits in very beautiful manner with the yogic approach to balance and mindful practice. So Wednesdays is dedicated to that, and these are for beginners. So anyone and everyone can give a try and try the hand at this practice. Then comes Thursday. Thursday is again dedicated to Maruti. Marut is a word means wind. Maruti is born of the wind, again Hanuman. So Maruti Yoga, because I use the word Maruti because it signifies wind. This is about cardio and aerobic. So it gets your heart rate up. You'll be breathing heavily, and it's a must for even for general health. You need to do something. That is why walking is considered good. But walking at a brisk pace, you can't go on a leisure walk. Even if you're not doing anything and considering walking, think of walking at a brisk pace. Think of walking at a slight slope. You have to get your heart rate to beat up much higher than it normally is. That is what strengthens. And lung muscles are like any other muscle. You need to strengthen the lung muscles, right? So when especially we talk of this COVID and all of this, how do we build immune system? Through these kind of practices, we are able to build the immune system. So this is again cardio and overall fitness. It's a lot of flexibility. So while we talk of flexibility in Hatha Yoga, and that is you pose, you pause in each pose, pause in each pose. But here you don't pause. It's kriyas, one kriya after the other. We go on doing kriyas. So you're tiring the body by repetitive movements. And it's a very powerful way to train yourself for overall fitness. Then comes, again, this is not for beginners, but if some of you are adventurous enough to try a couple of classes, please do so and see how you feel. But if you do have severe lower back problems or anything else, please check with your physician with regard to all of this. Show him a couple of videos from these classes and say, these are the kind of exercises, is it okay for me to do? And take that advice. I cannot be in a position and I am not in a position to give you that kind of therapeutic advice from a distance like this. It wouldn't be fair for you or for me. Then comes Friday. Friday is Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga is meditation. Because this is the path of yoga, the way I explore and the way I practice, my approach to teach is what I practice. And I practice exploring the chakras, the consciousness, understanding my connection to the elements again and again and again and again. And that exploration has enriched my life beyond words. That is what I hope to share. We began very simple. It was this morning for this particular year. We'll build on this slowly as we go along. We might take a whole class, just one meditation session just to meditate on one particular element. I don't know. I'll let Baba guide me, and we'll see how things work out. But the idea here is guided meditation is to give you a reference point as to what can I do if I have 30 minutes or 40 minutes with me? How can I take my mind through this journey? In a strict technical sense of the term, what we are doing is not meditation because we are speaking and listening and thinking. But it is more of a dharana than dhyana in a strict yogic term. But you have to do that to enter that. You cannot practice meditation. It's like saying, I want to practice sleeping. You cannot practice sleeping. You can practice going to bed at the right time. You can practice shutting off the lights. You can practice listening to soft music. You can practice all the others, but the actual sleep is you slip into it, right? You can't practice it. It is the same thing with meditation. Though we use the word lightly and say, yeah, we are practicing meditation and things like that. But the actual dhyana that Patanjali talks about, that Raja Yoga talks about, is not open for practice. It's an experience that the divine gifts you with. So to earn that grace, we start practicing other things that will lead us to that particular zone and wait for the door to open. So the 5 days in the week is these kind of yogas. For those of you who are serious about your overall fitness and health, I would earnestly urge also during the weekend, or if you skip one of these days and do something else, then I would urge you for two things. If you're fit enough to go on running on a treadmill, and this time of the year it's very, very cold, it's snowy, slippery, and so it's not advisable to run outside. But I do have friends and brothers who do that. But you can run on a treadmill or go for brisk walk. Bring that into your regimen, maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday. And one particular day, give complete rest. So it'll be a very good way. So what happens is your body doesn't get into a plateau when you're doing an exercise regime. Otherwise, the same exercise every day, it's like going the same walk, the same circle. Exactly the same muscles are operating, right? So after the first month, after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, the body stops because the body is used to it now. All the muscles that had to be toned are already toned, and that's it. It reaches what is called a plateau. There's no more progress. So what happens is when you challenge the body doesn't know what to expect. So every day is a completely different routine. You're surprising the body. And then the body starts burning more fat. The brain becomes more active. The actual gray matter in the brain begins to grow. It's the benefits of this, just as a physical level I'm talking about, is tremendous. And when we do it from the ancient yoga perspective, where every of these yoga class will end with deep shavasana and deep yoga nidra, except for the dhyana yoga on Fridays. The others will end with guided relaxation and yoga nidra. So those kind of practices take it to a whole different level. So hopefully this is motivating enough for some of you to try it. If not, please pass it on to your children, youngsters, if you know. They will be interested in doing this. I know they will be, because it is going to challenge people who like to physically challenge themselves. You're most welcome to be a part of this. This is not just for the body, but it goes into the mind and the spirit as well. But I just today focused just on the body part of it, so we can at least get be grounded and start our sadhana from there. So these are the 5 types of yoga KYG offers. So in connection with this, the next question that came up was, so how are these physical yoga exercises connected to the spiritual progress? Do we really have to do it? So many great masters and some names were mentioned. They don't teach or recommend all of this. They said the Aham Brahmasmi is there, the I am God principle is there. Why do we need to go into all of this, put ourselves through all these rigorous practices? Well, for one thing, I have rarely come across a master who didn't go through tapas and austerity. Even with Sri Ramana Maharishi, one of the greatest sages we have ever known in the last century, even he went through tremendous austerity and penance. Okay, he was found in the dungeon with rats eating into his feet, and Sheshadri, another great yogi, Swami Sheshadrigal, he rescued him and fed him and took care of him. And then Ramana would go up the hill into the Arunachala and meditate on those caves. And I've seen those caves. It's now, of course, it's all got path and everything. But those days, it was just open to wild animals. So they all went out of their comfort zone without any fear. They went, explored. And then when Ramana talked about the Advaita, that was his experience he's talking about. Now, it is very convenient for us to say, oh, that is what it is. Then why am I going to struggle with this? It doesn't work like that. At least for me, that's not the way I've understood. So I like to be there. I like to understand where he went and then work out what path opens for me. And to me, the body, as I put out here, the body is the temple. The body is the temple. If I'm seeking divinity within, first of all, this temple has to be clean. This temple has to be healthy. The temple has to be fit. If I can't even sit straight for about 10 minutes, then how can I go in? Now this is my perspective, right? You're welcome to differ from what I have to say. I'm just sharing my journey, and I'm humbly putting it out there. I'm not saying this is the only way and I'm right and you're wrong. Please don't misunderstand me. I like the idea of first keeping the vehicle ready, because I feel it's like this. You could have the tastiest meals spread out on the table, but how are you going to eat it? You need a plate on which to put the meal, right? What if the plate is dirty? What if the plate is cracked? What if the plate is broken? Would you be able to enjoy that tasty meal? When we go to a restaurant, for example, we hear about a great cook that is working in the restaurant. We hear about the tastiest meals in the restaurant. But when you walk in and you find the restaurant dirty, would you still go for the food? That's a question you have to answer. It is the same thing with the body. If the body that houses the divine, like a temple, any temple, if it's dirty, what would you do? You would say, how can we clean this? Can I volunteer and clean a temple? So when an external temple, external altar in your home has to be clean and tidy because it reflects divinity, how much more clean that we should have our body? When we understand the yamas and niyamas that Patanjali teaches us in Yoga Sutra as part of the Kaivalya Marga classes, you will understand why I emphasize on this. It's so, so very important. That body is a temple, and the temple houses the divine. So we need, and it is in that respect that when we work all these kind of yogas, the body begins to harness these energies. So what happens here is, like I've mentioned here, the fine-tuning the body, balance, breathing. You're able to regulate the pranic forces. Prana is a powerful energy. Science has still not discovered it or given it to us. But the yogis have given it to us in a platter. They said it's within you. But it requires tremendous amount of discipline and exercises like those 5 kinds of yoga that will help you harness the pranic energies. You'll be able to channelize those energies. And then expansion of consciousness, oneness with the divine, exploring other dimensions that we talk about is no longer abstract. It will be real. It will be real. The third eye does get activated. So, but it just doesn't happen by reading books and watching good things on television or attending satsangs. If I don't take that information, convert that into a spiritual practice of some kind. Think of Ramana Maharishi's austerities. Think of Lord Buddha's austerities. Lord Krishna is considered one of the greatest yogis. So every master lived a very austere life, including our beloved Swami, as I call him. Even he led a very austere life. He didn't need to do that tapas, right? But he led a very austere life, very strict about his food, very strict about the way, how much he slept and how he sat and what chair he sat on and everything. So discipline is part of that journey, and all of this yoga helps us maintaining that discipline. And when we study Vedic astrology, you will know that one of the greatest ways to harness the energies of Saturn in your favor, in your life, from deep within the unconscious, because Saturn affects right from unconscious. We'll study that as we go along, so don't ask me questions on that at this point right away. But one of the greatest way to harness the energies of Saturn is through disciplined practices such as yoga. Then Saturn will fold his hands and say, what do you want me to do for you? That is the beauty of that energy. That is why it said Hanuman. When you have Shanivar, why do you do it on Shanivar, Hanuman? Because Hanuman knew how to harness the energies of Saturn and make Saturn do his bidding rather than the other way around. So Hanuman energy is where? It's within us, within you and me. So how do we harness, awaken that Hanuman within us? Strength, vitality, aerobic capacity, flexibility, humility, and all of that will of course come. But when you harness that, then powers like these, great powers like the powers of the Saturn, influence of Saturn, all of that will be used for your own benefit. You will have nothing to fear. Hanuman feared nothing. So use him as a role model. Put his picture up on a wall and then say, I have to be like him. The last point I made here, if you already read it, is honestly, at the bottom line is there is no such thing as physical yoga, mental yoga, spiritual yoga. Because I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again many times as we go along this path, is where does the body end? Where does the mind begin? Is there a strict line? Where does the mind end? Where does the spirit begin? They are not watertight compartments. When you're working with the body, you're already working with the mind. When you're working with the mind, the spirit begins to unleash itself from the trapped, conditioned mind. It becomes free. So yoga practices like these, with a spiritual, with reverence, humility, as a sadhana, the right attitude, with the right approach, it is a mental practice and a spiritual practice. So it's not only a physical yoga. There is no such thing as only physical. The body is a reflection of the mind, right? When you're angry, you're frowning your face, your hands are shivering, and all of that, because the body reflects what's going on in the mind. The mind, in turn, reflects the spirit. So when you work with the body, you're actually going deep inside at a mental level, at a spiritual level, and all of that, because they are all enmeshed. The body is only a reflection. The source is the spirit. So it is with that approach and that attitude and that understanding that we engage in yoga practices. And therefore, it is with that earnestness that I share these classes. So for those of you who are eager to engage in a spiritual practice and a spiritual sadhana and bring it into your daily life, this is the right time to start. The sun has begun his northward journey. So from now, another 3 months till he becomes fully bright, it's a period for growth. So it's a time to slowly get into gear, kick into gear, if you will. So that is why we do these yoga practices, and they are very much spiritual, not simply some physical gymnastics, if you will. The another question that came to me in the last few weeks through December into January is, you're teaching us Dakshinamurti chants, now you're going to Devi Khadgamala chants, you've chanted us mantras, now you've got yoga, and then you're going to teach more in Kaivalya Marga classes. How do we bring all of this into our everyday sadhana? Is there a way you can suggest? Now, when you're learning, it seems too much, right? Think of the times when we used to go to colleges. And if some of you are into college and learning, think of how many courses you have to do. It just seems never ending, right? But the doctor who has gone through 8 years of intense medical studies and learning and experimentation comes out, and now he's able to practice it. So there is a phase, there's a learning phase, and there is a practice phase. The practice phase is much more calmer and much more spaced out than the learning phase. So when we're learning every day, the learning itself is also sadhana. That's wonderful. But when you start practicing it, it might seem a bit too much. Now, what have we covered so far? Only 2 things in a satsang point of view. From a satsang point of view. Hanuman Chalisa we covered. Dakshinamurti we covered. So if you want to bring this into your practice, assuming you have understood the Hanuman Chalisa, and that learning can go on at your own pace. Watch the videos again if you have any doubt with a particular stanza and so on. Read about it and so on. That will go on, right? All you have to do is perhaps once a week on a Saturday, you can chant the Hanuman Chalisa. And on a Thursday, because of the Guru, the Supreme Guru, you can invoke the Dakshinamurti consciousness, meditate upon that, and chant the Dakshinamurti Stotram. So that's it. The rest of the days are free in that sense. So it's not every day, every moment you have to do this. So figure it out. Okay, I'm going to do Dakshinamurti on every Thursday or every full moon. Maybe once in 2 weeks is all you have to do. So work out a schedule and then say, I'm going to do it every full moon. Every new moon, I'll chant the Hanuman Chalisa. Every full moon, I'll do this. Things like that. When we do the Devi Khadgamala Stotra, when you learn the Stotram, when you learn to read the Stotram, it is actually 7 to 8 minutes. But I never do it so fast. It takes about 15 minutes. But still, it's 15 minutes. And I do it every Ashtami. That is the 8th day of the lunar cycle. So I do it only twice a month. That is how you practice. So when you bring it all into this into your system, it's not every day, all of it. You can't do that. Right? You have a kitchen full of provisions, but you don't eat all the provisions and use all the provisions every day. You keep them in their respective places and you say, all right, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that. What happens is it creates a beautiful energy. You're tuning into these different energies, calling the divine by different names. For me, I don't find any difference in all of this, and it has never distracted me. Maybe because this is how Baba trained us. He made us sing all gods. He said bhajan should have all gods, every bhajans you call upon, and all religions. So he right from the beginning, he builds that base. He says, think of the religion of love. Think of the God who's omnipresent. Call upon that. So don't restrict it to only one form, one name. It doesn't work like that. So he straight away opens your mind to that. So once you're into that kind of acceptance, then you begin to call out to the same divine principles through different means. And it actually begins to enrich your practice. Again, not every day, because it'll be too much for you to handle. Not every day, everything, but at different times. Then you will welcome the break, you will welcome the energy, and it'll always be new to you. Always be new to you. The Kaivalya Marga classes is more of a lifestyle practice. That is where we understand the philosophy of why should I not eat a particular fruit, or how do I take a holistic approach to weight loss, for example, or how do I control stress? What is the cause? What is my relation with these elements? How do these elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, how do they work through my mind? How do they come in through my sense of smell? How do they come in through the sense of touch? What kind of my thoughts are? The thoughts can be interpreted as too earthy or too watery or too fiery, and so on. And so you begin to understand that at every moment, it's only elements that are expressing itself through me in this particular dimension. And once you understand that, then you begin to, everything else begins to rearrange itself around you. So that is not something like an everyday 7 to 8, every morning I have to practice Kaivalya Marga. It doesn't work like that. It's a lifestyle practice that we are learning about, right? So that is something which will slowly creep into your system as you understand why we are doing all of this. What is the purpose in all this sadhana? Are we becoming more religious? Or are we doing this to open our spirit into a dimension where there is only empowerment, only love, only oneness, only inclusion? There's no place for fear. No place for fear of loss, of death, or any of that. Because a different understanding of the I in us begins to dawn. So that's what hopefully the Kaivalya Marga classes will offer. So this is how I'm hoping to enrich our lives, your life, my lives, our lives. And so we begin to understand why we are doing all of this, when can we do this, and so on and so forth. There is no God sitting up there waiting to punish you if you miss a day of practice. So lastly, can we suggest a morning or evening routine for a yoga practitioner, yoga sadhana, if you will? So I have just put out something. This is not written in stone. It is just a suggestion as to how I would do it, and I'm just passing it on to you. So morning is, as soon as I get up from bed, I do these kriyas. Not the Omkara kriya, I do the Kakashuddhi and the Agnisara in the bathroom itself after I cleanse my bowels. I do of the Kakashuddhi Agnisara. Then I have the shower and everything. I come to the altar and I chant the Omkara. I do the Omkara Kriya and then I do the Om chanting. Om chanting can be 3 times, 7 times, 11 times, 21 times, 9 times, whatever you want. Don't get stuck by a number. But try and understand, why am I doing it 9 times? What does it mean to me? How can I, each time, what will I focus on when I chant the Om? Use those building blocks. Then you will enjoy the Om by itself. That's we did today, being Friday. We did for 21 ohms. We might do just 7 ohms. We might do only 3 ohms. So you will get an idea of how this is. But try and begin every day with some kind of chanting of the Om. It can be very, very soft. When I practice on my own, I don't put scale and shruti and keyboards. I just go, Om. And when I chant, I let my consciousness and connect to the deepest source on the universe. So, Omkar chanting, that could be done. After that, it's called the Bandha Sadhana, Bandha Dhyana, Bandha Dharana is focus on the bandhas. The bandhas, I've already discussed it in the Kaivalya Marga classes, and we might touch upon it as we go along. But we already practice in our yoga classes the Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara Bandha. In this time, because we do in the yoga classes, we practice along with asanas. We need to take about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, or 10 minutes to practice just the bandhas by themselves. Focus on the bandhas. And that is a dharana. Dharana is, don't use bandhas as a means to get somewhere. Just focus on the bandhas and be happy practicing the bandhas. This could be done within 5 minutes if you don't have time. It's not a matter of time at all. It is a quality that you can put in. So bandha dharana practice can come. So it also helps in that yoga path where the dharana is one of the important steps before dhyana. After that, you practice the yoga abhyasa. These are the yoga classes that we introduce. So these are all, whatever kind of abhyasa you want to do, the Hanuman yoga, Maruti yoga, Hatha yoga, all of that comes in the yoga abhyasa. At the end of the yoga abhyasa, however long you want to do it, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, we do it for about 40 minutes, and then we go into yoga nidra. We lie down in shavasana and we go into yoga nidra. Yoga nidra we do for 10-15 minutes. And the very important part, because at that point you're not sleepy, you're not tired. But many people might fall into sleep, and that's okay because we have trained ourselves to lie down and close your eyes for what? To go to sleep, right? But we have never thought of it as leaving the body and going into another dimension. So that needs a lot of training. So every day you have to practice that. So at the end of the yoga abhyasa, the body lies down in shavasana and you practice the rudimentary steps of yoga nidra. Okay? So yoga nidra comes there. And then you sit up and meditate. This is where you're now, right from kriyas, you've prepared yourself for dhyana. I have called it chakra dhyana because that's the only dhyana I do. I meditate on the chakras. You can do guru dhyana, meditate on the guru. You can do a deity, dhyana on your chosen deity. You can simply, because at that point the mind is silent, after nidra, yoga nidra. You just sit up and go into meditation. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Don't worry about the time. Just sit and let that silence prevail for as long as you have to, as long as it's natural. So this could be a morning routine for some of you, and all of this can be condensed to an hour's practice. These are just suggestions, okay? Then don't get religious about it, dogmatic about it. Evening, for example, if I want to add an evening routine to it, I would do bhajans or chants, japas. All of that comes in the evening. Why evening? In my case, that's how we did. We used to go to the college, everything in the morning, and evenings after darshan we would have bhajans every day in the ashram. So that is kind of, I can't think of any other way, but it could be different for you, right? So bhajans and chants go in the evening. You can do pranayama in the evening. Keep that later on, if not in the morning. You can also include pranayama in the morning. So pranayama with japa or without japa, with Ramanam pranayama, as we have learned earlier as part of the Hanuman Chalisa. You can do the Ramanama pranayama or any pranayama, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before dinner. You can make it a small sadhana practice. So you have bhajans, you have pranayama. If you have time, if you didn't do it in the morning, you can do the yoga abhyasa in the evening, right? Or you can do morning and evening if you want to, if you have the time. Then after yoga abhyasa, of course, you will always end with yoga nidra. Yoga abhyasa, yoga nidra go hand in hand. Don't skip the yoga nidra. Yoga abhyasa prepares you for yoga nidra. And in yoga nidra, the real yoga begins to flower. So you have yoga abhyasa, yoga nidra, and then once again, you end that practice in meditation. So if you're not practicing any of this yoga abhyasa, you can do bhajans or chants, japa, pranayama, meditation. Again, it could be condensed to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever time you have. Don't worry about the time. Just follow some kind of routine like this and let the routine get into your system, and later on it'll guide you. You will be guided to make these changes, and you'll know in your heart there's nothing wrong in making these changes, right? So this is just a small framework for you to use as a guidance so that you can help make your own routine, because we're in the beginning of the new year and this is the right time I thought we could set this ball in motion. Having said that, do you have any more questions? Let's go through that. How do we know we are progressing in the spiritual path towards Kaivalya, towards oneness? I've listed a few of the hallmarks. See, How do you know your progress? How do you know you are progressing in school? Based on the mark sheet, based on how you performed in the exam. The exam is, in this case, is our everyday life. So the first thing is, you will automatically be more proactive than reactive. You will start doing things because you will see the implications of what I'm doing now is not right. So I'm going to change it before something happens to me. Before a red flag comes up and the doctor says something, I might as well get ready. Not being paranoid, but being proactive. You become naturally proactive because you become more aware. You begin to listen to your body with these practices. You're tuning into the body, into your mind, into the universe, into the elements, and you will know things which are not otherwise known so easily. So you become more proactive to situations. Cleanliness will become part of your everyday life. Positive outlook will become a natural part of it. It doesn't happen overnight. All of this slowly fall in place. You will not like things being shabby, not organized. You will want to sit and get on organized. Not to a sense of being obsessive about it. It's not a OCD kind of a obsessive compulsive disorder. Not to that extreme. But you'll just not just drift along. You will take charge of your life and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Cleanliness means orderliness. Orderliness also means discipline in your life. Then you'll be mindful of everything that you do. Your entire lifestyle will become mindful of what kind of food I'm eating, what kind of friends I'm mixing with, what kind of conversations I'm indulging in, what kind of sounds I'm listening to, what kind of programs that I watch on TV, how do I feel about certain things. So that mindfulness leads to an empowered lifestyle. You will slowly move away from the victim mindset to a mindset where you become responsible. Say, I take responsibility of my life. I am the captain of my ship and I will know where to go. Because, why do you do that? Because you know there's a higher intelligence guiding you and therefore you will owe it to him. Hanuman was very confident, not because he was egoistic, but because he knew that the energy within him belonged to Ram. And so that kind of mindfulness will give you a tremendous empowerment and no place for fear. The next one, the last three, let's put it out there, Maya. The last three are, I put that in yellow because it takes a while for this to come in. At least for me, it did. It doesn't mean it should apply to you as well. Contentment and acceptance. You will naturally be content. You won't do these practices and say why it's not happening, why I'm not, where am I going to go with this, what is the benefit of all this, why am I still falling sick when I'm done yoga. None of those questions. You will enjoy the practice. You'll be content with your practice. The means is an end by itself, and the end becomes the means becomes the end. You got to understand that you're not doing yoga to get somewhere. We don't have to get anywhere. In fact, if anything, we have to undo where we are already to go back to our source. So contentment and acceptance comes naturally, and that is the hallmark of your progress. Synthesis in thoughts, words, and deeds. I use the word synthesis. Synthesis is where different things come together and form a new. So you will be blessed with a vision of where your life is going, where it should be. You'll feel the guidance. Why? Because your thoughts and your words and your deeds are kind of aligning themselves together. That it's not going. They are not going in different directions. You're not doing something and telling somebody something else, like a lie, and you're thinking something else, right? If somebody is smoking, he's thinking I have to give up smoking. He's thinking I have to give up. He's saying he's already given up, but his action is he's still smoking. So you can imagine three different things. So this kind of diversification always keeps the mind in a state of confusion. But when you practice yoga, because you're bringing your breath along with your action, you're training your body, disciplining your body, the mind also learns to discipline. The energies in your body begins to get disciplined. Your thoughts, which are manifestations of this energy, come into that discipline. They all begin to flow in the direction you want them to flow. That is the beauty of this. So in that synthesis, a whole different lifestyle emerges. Every day becomes a blessing. No matter if you are rich or poor, all that, you will learn to smile at all of that and go along. The last one is expansion and inclusiveness. There will be no contraction in your consciousness. No more, oh, what's in it for me? What will happen to me if I give away this? It's expansion. Let us do it together. What is there to be afraid of? So there's no fear of losing when you share. Actually, joy shared is joy double, they say, right? Sorrow shared is sorrow half. So you share. In that expansion, in that sharing, you become inclusive. You include everyone, everything. There's no judgment. Because everything in my life is a manifestation of my consciousness. And if I'm not happy with something out there, I have to go within and say, how did that manifest in my life? I have to change something here, because something here set that in motion. And so that kind of expansion and inclusiveness will come. The idea of being a victim and all of that will go away. Sadhana, when I say sadhana, I'm saying spiritual. Sadhana is a Sanskrit word for practice. Sadhana is a very powerful way to live an empowered lifestyle, my dear sisters and brothers. Find out what kind of sadhana you like, what kind of sadhana you want to start with. And allow that sadhana to blossom. It'll guide you. It might change. It might get in more practices of different kinds. Open your mind. Engage, but continuously engage in sadhana, spiritual practice. You will find your life, it's a blessing. It's the greatest blessing. And that is the only way I know to incur the grace of the divine. So hopefully these FAQs have made it clear, short. I made it clear, and hope if you have any questions, please do write to me, and we will take it from there. As always, let's end this satsang with a nice bhajan. This is a very old bhajan, but a beautiful bhajan. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hari. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Govinda Murare, Gopal Murare. Govinda Murare, Gopal Murare. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Mathura Natha, he Giridhari. Mathura Natha, he Giridhari. Radha Madhava, he Giridhari. Radha Madhava, he Giridhari. Radha Madhava, he Giridhari. Radha Madhava, he Giridhari. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Bhajan karo manva, Govinda Hare. Govinda Murare, Gopal Murare. Govinda Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Sita Ram Hare Hare Sai Ram Hare Hare Radhe Shyam Hare Hare Sai Ram Sita Ram Radhe Shyam समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव शांति 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 है।